Well, I would just want to welcome everybody to the First Chapter podcast. And we are welcoming back again a dear friend, but not an old friend because we don't use the O word here. It's not profanity, but it's right next to it in the dictionary. But a dear friend who we've enjoyed the company of before, Jerry Woodbridge, who is an author extraordinaire. In fact, I will tell everybody that Jerry, right after our first interview, which was about a book about a little girl who lost a dad, yet joy overcame sorrow. That book caused an epiphany for me about a story I'd been writing, which was about a couple that came together under very perverse circumstances. And Jerry was kind enough and graceful enough to help me because I wanted that book to take a turn. I wanted it to take a turn into their relationship to become a blessing. And I had this idea, and Jerry stepped up and really helped me through that. And I thank you so much. You will be forever dear to my heart because of that. But tell me and tell us, what have you been doing in the last 3-4 months since we did our first podcast? What have you been up to?
Finalizing The Intersection, which is the second book of the Lost Loved One series. And every one of these books can stand alone, but they're going to be packaged in a series at some point, to be sold to schools or whoever is interested in the books, because they also tap into social emotional learning principles, etc. So I'm sort of working on a curriculum as I develop the books, and then it can be used in the school. And that's what I'm hoping happens. So The Intersection is actually something actually did happen when I was teaching in a Christian school. And I was teaching second grade, and the teacher above me had 2 twin boys in her class. And they were riding their bikes along the highway. This took place in Jacksonville, Florida, where I was living at the time. And one of the boys was hit by a car. So I have always wondered, and this is probably 30 years ago, I've always wondered how that twin boy that survived it was able to recover and move forward in life. So I took that germ of an idea and I put it in the book, and I called it The Intersection. And so we have 2 twin boys, Cade and Colton Marshall, and they are both riding their bikes and they're racing. The one ahead is Cade, and he's very much of a daredevil. He challenges Colton all the time, and Colton is kind of riding his bike behind him, and they're racing to the Wawa convenience store. So when he gets to the intersection, Cade does not wait. He crosses the intersection because he thinks he's got a path forward. And as he crosses the intersection, there was a SUV that was turning left and had been looking down at their phone prior. And then they saw the light and they gunned it. And that's where Cade was hit. So then we have Colton here watching the whole thing from the signal post of that intersection. So that's kind of like the beginning of the story. And then we read throughout. There's 21 chapters in this book. We read throughout how Colton deals with this. And the people that become his dearest friends because they step in and walk with him and don't tell him what to do. He does start talking to a counselor and to his pastor, Olivia. And so as you go throughout the school year, and he has one male teacher that he and the teacher sometimes challenge each other, and sometimes it's good and sometimes not so good, but it ends up being okay at the end. And then we have like chapter 20 is the celebration of life. Everybody, including the family, has kind of gotten to a point where, okay, now we're ready to celebrate who Cade was to us. And then the family goes back to the intersection. You know how we always have these white crosses with the butterfly, with butterflies or teddy bears or balloons there to represent this is where an accident happened. Well, Colton and the family had visited that intersection many times. So after the celebration of life, they go and they visit that intersection one more time. And there's a really neat way to put it that the intersection is no longer a grave. It's simply a place where people can pass through. So after I finished the book, I was thinking, because I gave you a little clue in the beginning, I was thinking, I think I wrote this book because this is how I hoped that twin boy was able to get the support he needed to be able to walk through this, and still be intact, whole as a person. So.
Did you try and go back and find that person and contact him?
I have not, because I'm living in Woodland Park, Colorado, but that may be something I do in the future, and just, and
you don't have to disclose that it was an inspiration for a book or anything like that, but just to say, hey, I was a teacher there. I mean, this is a heart-wrenching, compelling story. How did you emotionally deal with reliving this yourself and writing this?
Well, it's one of these things that I do. I mean, this is the niche that I in, and after writing Joy Overcame Sorrow, I kind of know what I need to do, how to write it in first person, and and to write it from a boy point of view with little poop emojis and things. Yes. So,
you bring up a great point, and I actually, without referring to you specifically, but I talk about this in my Udemy course on authoring, the risk of writing in first person, especially first person present tense, is really tough. But there are some voices that need to be heard in that way. And I reference the fact, for instance, if you want to write in a little girl's voice with what she's experiencing at the time, or a boy, in this example, then that's just something that you have to do. But I say it's hard.
Right. Well, I mean, I have to do, instead of a book launch, we're going to do a book club with the intersection. So I think I sent you the link for that kind of in the last email. And what I would love for people to do is join us for the book club, because we're going to, those people that sign up will get the first 10 chapters of the book, and we will meet twice before the launch of July 28th, and then we'll meet twice after that. And so that way they can ask questions and, share their responses. I've done a virtual book launch party before, and it was really neat because people would share, what they got out of the book. And that's kind of like the same kind of feel that we want. And we also know it's summertime, so we understand that. But yeah,
What's the date of that?
it's going to start July 14th. So next week. And so
Wednesday. Is that right?
let me double check. Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay, I'm going to take a look at my calendar. I will do everything I can to be there.
I think
it's
that's
virtual,
awesome.
right? I mean, I can't come to Colorado, but
right, it is virtual. It is virtual. That would be great.
I
So
absolutely would love to do that. I do have one podcast scheduled that day, but I could probably even move that around if I needed to. So
okay. Well, if you go and click on that link, or go to my website, it'll have a little thing where click here, and then you can join us. So any of the listeners can do the same. And if you sign up and you give us your email address or whatever, we can send you the first 10 chapters PDF. So, and what we really would like, as we're discussing this through the book club, is to purchase the book on the release date, July 28th, and then within the 2-week period or the time of the book club, post a good read review. They do pre-launches as well, and also Amazon. So if they purchase the book through Amazon, they're a verified person, they can go ahead and put a book review for Goodreads. For the intersection. Yes.
We're getting closer time-wise as far as that event, but I don't know if you know or not, but I've hired 2 full-time staff to work for marketing and promotion, and I will get something put together on this right away, unless you have something specific. But I will also put something together right away, and I will have those 2 people start pumping this out over the weekend. We can get a lot of exposure on this.
That would be great. That would be great. Just
all over social media, and we are, a lot of the stuff we're doing is international, but there's a lot of domestic stuff too, and
right.
And we can get this definitely pumped out. So this afternoon I'll start working on it, because it's Friday for a Tuesday launch for the event. So
yes, thank you.
So I want to take a little step backwards here in our conversation, and I want to talk about in dealing with your emotions, because most authors get so immersed in the story that it can impact them emotionally. What do you feel about that?
Well, I do think you're right, but I do think I have enough time and healing on my hands to not quite be as affected by it. Now, I do know, like in Joy Overcame Sorrow, I was impacted because I was still trying to finish up the book, and my mom was in the hospital for 3 different times, and they seemed to be very serious hospitalizations. So I felt at that time that I was grieving as I was writing the book, and I was grieving because of my mom, kind of more anticipatory grief. So yeah, that kind of did a number on me, and I just kind of had to give myself a little break and a little time to recover. And once things were okay with Mom, then I could go back and do what I needed to do.
As a lot of people know, and I'm sure you know, I write a lot of books about girls that are being trafficked or have been trafficked, and some of the experiences they've had and things that are going through. And then through some of my connections, I get those calls about actual, literal young women, girls sometimes,
right,
who have been trafficked in what has happened to them, or some very contemporaneous event. And so then sometimes as I'm sitting there writing, because I'll then convert that into my stories. Sometimes I sit and I'm just crying. I'm just have tears in my eyes and just streaming down my cheeks. It's like, I'm such an empath, I guess. If
Right.
imagining what those girls feel like and what some of these kids experience, and I can't even wrap my brain around what in your book Colton would have experienced, literally watching his brother get
Right.
impacted him, the carnage and everything. I mean, it's just that's horrific. So I salute you as an author who's willing to take on that kind of trauma.
Well, I think it is also very relatable for children who have experienced trauma, children who have experienced PTSD as a result of the trauma. We talk about survivor's guilt, basically in the book, because Colton is thinking, why did you take him? He was the go-getter, person. I think you got the wrong twin, basically. So that's how he was feeling. So that allows, that allows for a lot of conversation. We're working on doing a journal for the intersection as well, so that topic can be discussed. And I'm working on another book as soon as I get a chance to breathe between the book club and, getting things out. I'm going to work on another book about a family who has experienced a military loss. So, and I have permission from the widow, and I'm talking to her 11-year-old son and 8-year-old little girl, and trying to put their story within a fiction story. And, they recently went to TAPS in Washington, D.C. during Memorial Day. Well, I know the little girl thought that was fun and it was exciting, and she got, and they got to, post things about their dad and all. But I know Camden was, you could tell he's still hurting. He's just feeling like nothing really helps. So in the book, I'm going to give Camden kind of like a Mr. Miyagi character, because I know he's not in that place where he's healed yet, but he appreciates talking to people who understand about loss and, is respectful. That's one of the things that they both said, that they wanted people to be respectful because they have experienced a very deep hurt. So have a little bit of their comments and stories.
Having had tragic losses in my life, having known a lot of people that have, including some families that have had military losses, and the other side, I actually know of a man who was in the Middle East on duty, got a call that his entire family was killed in an automobile wreck, his wife and 4 kids. And a truck driver crossed the median and head on crashed to their Subaru, and he had to fly home and deal with that. These are, I think I used the word horrific. There's no word, big enough to describe dealing with those things. But, there are certain things that people say that are just not what you want to hear, right? Is this don't say I know how you feel.
Right.
Don't say you'll have another child. Don't, I don't know why people say these things. It's just, I think they're trying to relieve their own pressure or something, maybe. I don't know.
Right. It'll be all right.
Time will heal. I mean,
yeah. I mean, in a sense, time will heal, but it's not really the time. It's the processing of the grief that heals.
I describe it that you never get over it. It doesn't heal, but you find a place to put it and keep it so that you can move on.
Well, we grieve when we love. When we've loved that person, we grieve. When we love that person, we celebrate and we have joy. So it's kind of like our life is a bridge. We're constantly walking on the planks of love, either towards sorrow or joy.
Yeah.
We're constantly in that middle place. So, yeah, I mean, how do people get through it? Well, we don't tell them to stop loving the person, do we? So why do we tell them to get over their grief? Because
I'll share with you that I'll share with you that I lost a child, an infant, and there were a lot of people who didn't understand that I wasn't, maybe the word is bereft. His mother and I are people of faith. And there was a constant, well, gee, don't you want us to call a psychiatrist in, or don't you, a psychologist or a counselor, or, no, we got this. We know that these things happen, and it doesn't lessen your pain or anything, but as people of faith, we had a legitimate way of understanding. And I'll share one more thing with you for what it's worth. I have had a near-death experience myself. And all of those things that you read, I don't know if you have or not, but all of those things that you read about those experiences, they're very true. They're all very, very similar. And it changes your perspective forever on the whole process of crossing that metaphoric bridge. I mean, it's just, so, the grieving process, and I've had the great privilege of sitting and holding the hands of elderly people when they passed away. They need somebody to be there with them. They need somebody to be comforting them and to be present with them as they're doing that. So I find your work so significant, because it's not something that I personally see a lot of people taking on from the perspective you have. What do these families experience? And it's a great thing I think you're doing.
I appreciate that. So I know what Intersections already won 2 awards, the Chris Litt Award and then the prestigious International Hope Book Award. Now I sent it to that lady who is the CEO, Johanna Vendel, and I said, I'm sending this to you because you were a twin that lost your sister, lost your twin sister. And I just want to make sure, that this book resonates and is authentic for twins. And she agreed. So she endorsed my book. And then she said, you need to submit the book for an award. And I submitted the book. So
very good. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I just, I'm looking for ways to increase the book sales, not for my own sake, but that the message gets out there. Mm-hmm. And so I may pick your brain. I mean, I've tried a lot of things with marketing and stuff. So we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, it is very difficult. I'm still evolving in that. I don't think it's everything that is something that you get finished learning about.
Nope.
But I don't want to get into it here because this isn't the format, but I have learned some amazing things just recently. I've got some wonderful resources that I've employed and and are using as consultants and things. Because yes, it is a very confusing world, and I think I can share some things that'll help you with that. Not to mention the least of which, we're going to wrap this up in a few minutes, and I've got work to do. I got to get this out to the public, because I want to see if we can get some numbers to that event, the book club event. Anything else you want to share with your legions of fans as we hang up here, so I can get busy marketing your upcoming event?
Yes, keep reading, keep sharing, buy more than one book so that you're ready to give a child or a family the book. And also invest in the journals that are going to come out. I am definitely doing self-publishing completely this time. It's on Ingram Sparks, and it will be on Amazon very soon. And July 28th is when the book will be released. So buy it, share it, talk about it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Chapter 1 of The Intersection by Jerry L. Woodbridge. Everyone still calls me one of the twins. Even now, even though there's only me, I guess I don't really blame them. Cade and I used to look exactly alike. Same hair that never stayed flat. Same skinny arms. Same smirks that made teachers sigh before we even opened our mouths. If you didn't know us, you couldn't tell the difference. But Cade always said I walked like I was carrying bricks in my backpack, even when it was empty. He bounced. I dragged. That's how people who paid attention told us apart. I was the quiet one, the one who thought too much before talking. Cade was the "hey, watch this" kid. He made friends faster than I could say hello, was 5 minutes older, but acted like it was 5 years. And he always pulled me into whatever game, prank, or adventure he dreamed up. Now, when people see me, I can feel them waiting for the other one to come running up behind me. Their eyes flick past my shoulder like Cade might still appear, laughing, sneakers pounding the sidewalk. And for half a second, I expect him to. I fidget a lot these days. With pencils, with my sleeves, with Cade's old baseball card that I keep stashed in my pocket even though I don't even play baseball. My mom says it's a way of holding on. She's not wrong. If you want to know me, you have to know him first. Being Colton Marshall was never just about me. It was about being half of something. I'm still trying to figure out who I am now that the other half is gone. It started at the intersection. Cade hit the crosswalk button and looked back at me. I was about 10 feet behind him, pedaling slower like always. He grinned. He knew he had a head start. "Colton, race you to the Wawa." Before I could answer, he was already scanning traffic. He saw a gap and I saw it too. It wasn't big enough. Not really. But Cade never waited for big enough. "Cade!" I started, and he went for it. I didn't shout, didn't tell him to stop. I just watched. Cade shot off the curb, pumping hard, weaving between bumpers as engines growled and tires hissed against the pavement. The light was still red. Then it wasn't. Everything happened at once. A silver SUV lunged forward into a left turn, and Cade was in its path. I froze, not tripped, not stunned. Froze. Like if I didn't move, none of it would happen. Like staying still could rewind it. If I had pedaled harder, if I had grabbed his backpack, if I had yelled sooner, the flash of silver, the slam, metal folding in on itself. I tried to yell, "Watch out!" And nothing came out. Cade and his bike lifted into the air like someone had yanked him by a string. He hit the pavement hard, and the sound, metal scraping something snapping, echoed across the intersection. His bike skidded away from him. A car rolled over it with a crunch and stopped. There was blood on the road. Cade's blood, and I was standing there, breathing, having done nothing hard enough to stop it. Cars screeched to a halt all around him. For a second, nobody moved. Then everything exploded at once, doors opening, someone shouting, a horn blaring. The driver of the silver SUV stepped out, stared at Cade, stared at the road in both directions, then got back in and drove away. Just like that. I dropped my bike and ran into the street. Cade! My knees hit the asphalt beside him. His eyes were closed, blood on his forehead, on his shirt, on my hands when I touched him. Cade, hey, hey! I was supposed to know what to do. I was the cautious one, the rule follower, the one who made lists and checked the traffic twice. A woman rushed over with a blanket and a small red kit and knelt beside us. My name is Alyssa. What's your name? Colton. My voice didn't sound like mine. Is it okay if I help him, Colton? I nodded. She pressed her hand somewhere I didn't want to look, told someone to call 911, then wrapped the blanket around my shoulders, even though I wasn't cold. You're shaking, she said. I hadn't noticed. Sirens grew louder, then closer. People in uniforms took over, moving fast but speaking calmly, like if they kept their voices steady, everything else would be steady too. They put a stiff brace around Cade's neck, strapped him down, and lifted him onto a stretcher. I walked beside them until someone gently stopped me. A police officer knelt in front of me. Son, my name is Officer Goodner. What's your name? It took me a second to remember. Colton. Is that your brother? My twin. The word caught in my throat. He asked me questions, but they felt far away, like everything had gone underwater. Then it hit me. My mom, I blurted. You need to call my mom. Where does she work? Suncoast Christian School. It's a teacher planning day. I don't know why I added that. Maybe I needed him to understand why we were alone. He spoke into his radio. I heard my mom's name, the word accident, the word hospital. They loaded Cade into the ambulance. The door slammed shut, and the siren wailed as it pulled away. They took him and left me standing in the intersection. Wrong twin. The thought slipped in before I could stop it. Wrong twin. The officer put my bike somewhere, I don't even remember where, and guided me to his patrol car. I clicked my seatbelt without being told. He radioed that he was taking me to Memorial Hospital, and the ride felt endless and too fast at the same time. I sat in a hard vinyl chair in the ER waiting room, staring at a flickering fluorescent light. The clock on the wall ticked so loudly I wanted to rip it down. Every time the sliding doors opened, my head snapped up. Not them. Not yet. The accident kept replaying. Cade pedaling, the silver flash, the metallic crunch, his cry. I should have made him wait. I should have grabbed his handlebars. I should have pulled in front of him. I should have been the one in the street. Mom always told us to take care of each other. Was she going to look at me and see the brother who didn't? Officer Goodner sat beside me and tried asking what I saw. I told him. My voice felt flat, like I was talking about someone else. He mentioned that the intersection was dangerous. I already knew that. He offered to get me something from the vending machine, and I nodded, and when he walked away, the silence felt heavy but better. No more questions. I pictured Mom getting the call, standing in the school office with one hand pressed to her chest, saying the words out loud like they couldn't possibly be real. Hit by a car. Hospital. Critical. I tried to picture life if Cade didn't wake up. Every version ended with me explaining why I hadn't stopped him. The sliding doors opened again. This time it was her, hands shaking, scanning the room until she found me. Colton, are you okay? I nodded, but tears spilled down my face anyway. She crossed the room in seconds and wrapped her arms around me so tightly I could barely breathe. I'm so glad you're okay. Then she pulled back. Where is Cade? I pointed down the hall. A nurse told her the room number. Come on, Mom said, gripping my hand. Let's go see your brother. And just like that, we walked toward whatever was waiting for us.
Can we do it?